Well, students, the time has come for to practice a little bit. So this is going to be your assignment one. You're gonna find this video twice, one in the assignment, inside the assignment. I'm going to try to attach it to the homework. And another time you're gonna find it as lecture. So, you don't have to watch it twice if you don't want to. Of course, once you finish the course, if you want the certificate, you have to be able to watch all the videos, but I'm going to leave it up to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to practice with our hands. We're going to do a hand reading of our hands. Now for this exercise, you can use your right hand or left hand, or you can do both. The more practice that you get, the better. You can do this with a friend if they have about 30 to 40 minutes of time. And the first thing that we need to do when we do palm reading is setting the scene. So for the best and most enjoyable palm readings, you must be completely at ease. So try to choose a time of day when you're less likely to be disturbed. You want to create a relaxed and stress-free atmosphere with natural light or soft lighting at night, and you can shine this light across the palm to enhance detail. Soft pleasant music or candles will work, and these will help you create the right mood for the reading. A magnifying glass sometimes is useful to see the details, as we will find, because until you get practice, it is always good sometimes to have, it's always sometimes good to have extra ink or extra kind of like washable markers. There's a few methods. I'm going to tell you a couple methods on what you can draw your palm. And you can choose whatever you want, but you want to definitely setting up the scene and have a magnifying glass. A soft pillow to rest your hand with the palm facing upward will help the hand to adopt this natural position. So mindset is really important. Before you start your reading, you gotta be relaxed, breathe deeply, and clear your mind. And you don't need to be a psychic, of course, but it is a matter of simply interpreting the lines and translating them as you would from one language to another. If you keep an open mind, you will achieve much more. Your hands are the book of your life, so just remember that. So to start the reading, like I said, there's a couple methods. One that I find out works pretty well to see the details, if you do it well, is if you had an ink pad that was big enough for your hand, or maybe one of those rolling inks. I don't know exactly what the name is called, but you can roll your hand with ink and then put it on a white piece of paper, and that will allow you to see a lot of the detail. And another one is, well, what you're seeing over here on the screen is you will need a sheet of acetate paper and a water-based fiber teeth pen. So what you want to do is you want to place your dominant hand palm down onto the sheet of acetate and draw around it. Then turn your hand and the acetate over and mark the main lines. Now using the identifiers that I'm going to give you, you can match the shape of each line to the more examples. So we're going to practice, to know the main lines later on, but I want to show you some of the things that you can find on your palm. All right, so let's look at some of the things that you can find your palm in addition to the major lines. So when you're looking at your palm, sometimes you might find uneven lanes or lines. So uneven lines are deep in some places, and this shows a strength and intensity, and shallow in others, showing spent energy and weakness. So when you remember when we were talking about the hand and very thin lines shows that you have worked on that endeavor, And, make sure that you look what mount is on top of that line. Are there any other lines crossing? And if it's a delicate, very thin line, that means that you have spent energy on that and really nothing came out of it. It's sort of like an unfinished project. And you're spending a lot of energy maybe in an unfinished project. If you have 2 or 3 that kind of like cross each other like that and they're fine lines after being the beginning very deep, that means that you have been spending a lot of time on unfinished projects. What other things can we find? We can find islands. So an island is formed by a line splitting from a main line and then rejoining it. So islands show energy weakened by flowing in 2 directions, as you can see here. Then strength of purpose renew as the lines combine. You can also see that this person has, and we will learn later on, squares, right? You can see a couple of squares in there. We're going to learn the meaning of these squares in a minute. But you can see islands when you have line splitting from the main line and then it joins again. You can also have breaks. A break stops the natural flow in some way, and a small break or overlapping broken ends will have minimal effect. Sometimes breaks tend to be at the beginning of the line, of a major line. And there you go, we've seen some more squares. You'll see that depending on the mound, after you have looked at the palm consistency, you have looked at which mound is more pronounced on the left hand or the right hand. You will probably learn a lot about the career or some of the challenges that person has endured during his career. And a square is a protective barrier that forms around a break or weakness in a line, like a reinforcement on a riverbank. So this indicates that someone is caring for you in times of difficulty. So let's say that you have a line that was really deep at the beginning, and all of a sudden you see a very fine line, and then you see a square in it. That means that at the beginning, everything, that challenge was going fine. Let's say that it was, that is on the health line, for example. Everything was going fine with your health. All of a sudden, you're having the line gets thin, which means you are spending energy. The energy is going away from your palm. And then you see a square. That means somebody came to your help when you were going through a time of difficulty. In this case, it will be health related. So you also have to look around also to see which line is closer to the square, which mound is closer to the square, which is the mound that's bouncing back more. What is the consistency of that part of the palm? All of that needs to be assessed also. And then we have a chain line. And chain lines, as it shows over here, shows a path that is labored, that is strained or structured in some way. Think of a river with its force divided. So chaining on the hard line, for example, shows that sentimentality, problem in relationships, and also shows headaches as far as health goes. So that's another thing that you can see. And you can see sometimes lines are broken several times, and several times. All right, let's find more about some of the symbols. So as you can see, triangles, an isolated triangle on the palm shows great mental brilliance. A lot of people that are good communicators, or they might find this under the Apollo mount. People that are intellectually, that have mathematical abilities or they should be in a tutor or teacher career, might have this under Mercury or Jupiter, and definitely Jupiter as far as intellect. So if you see a triangle under the Jupiter mount, you definitely need to be in some kind of career dedicated to teaching or tutoring or communicating information. A triangle on the mount at the base of the index finger highlights also lofty ambition. Now let's look at the stars. And this one is kind of difficult to see but it almost looked not so much like a break or like a line, like a deeper line, but when you see a star, it looks almost like like a scar, a sort of a scar. Stars illuminate. When a star appears in any area formed by three lines crossing at a single point, it signifies a brighter, better, and generally more fortune prospects. Definitely, we see a lot of the stars when it comes down to financial matters. And finally, we see the squares again. We can see that in this case, the square is located in a different place, an amount of the base of the index finger in this case, and that is called the teacher's square. So this indicates a person whose talent lies in teaching and coaching. So if you see a square under the base of the index finger, then this indicates you might have a talent definitely in the education field. Now we've been talking about the palm, and we're going to cover more about the phalanges later on, the thumb. There's so much more information to cover as you go learning about palmistry. But I wanted you to see this picture because also you're going to observe, and later in the next module I'm going to teach you how to observe. We look at everything. We don't only look at the palm and the back of the palm. We also look at the color, we look at the consistency, the flexibility, we look at the phalanges, the different ways that the nail, the color of the nail, we look at everything. So that's why I'm saying that it is a lot of information. But the phalanges on the thumb, as you can see here, the top phalanx of the thumb, which contains the nail, represents willpower. Now some people have the thumb very pushed back, very flexible. This is normally people that have a lot of intellectual mind, very good with finances, but also with higher ego. They're very flexible, they learn things very quickly, but they also have a huge amount of ego. So normally you'll see, like in this one, they're about the same length. A shorter top phalanx shows a lack of willpower. A lower or long lower phalanx denotes a very logical person. So lines cutting across the lower phalanx are called intuition rings. Okay, I wish I could show you, but I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4. If you look at your thumb, look at the lower phalanx below the joint. Look at the lines that go across the lower phalanx. And these are called intuition rings. The more rings they are, the greater the intuition. So these lines often signify the seemingly contradictory condition of a very logical yet very high intuitive individual. And finally, the children's line. I actually remember this because this is the first time. It was when I was about, I would say probably about 14 or 15. Somebody said, hey, I can read your hand. They grab my hand and they're like, I'm going to tell you how many children you're going to have. And I don't know if you ever heard about this, but normally it's shown, next to the pinky finger as you look down on that part of the hand, underneath the amount for the pinky finger. You will see some lines, and they were called the children lines. These are the lines that cross the attachment lines at the right angles. So recent palmistry research has shown that there's no conclusive, correlation between children lines and the number of children you're likely to have. Normally, perhaps today, the children lines reflect potential rather than actual children. And that has to do with, remember when we're talking about, if you're in another one of my classes, we're talking about tarot, the tarot, we're talking about runes, we're talking about, alchemy or other pseudosciences, right? Obviously, they'll have something in common. Like astrology, for example, they all have something in common. Nothing in common is these require the will, your will. There's always things changing in this field. It's not so fate is not a constant thing. It's always changing as you change. And palmistry that's one of the the most important things that we learn in Module 1. So in this world, perhaps it is said that the children lines reflect potential rather than actual children. Due to contraception, greater emphasis on career, increased negative stress on females, you know, and the capacity to have children. As a result, the children lines signify your level of empathy with children. Now, looking at mine, I actually see 1, 2, if you look at your hand, and 3. And I actually have 3 kids. So I don't know, maybe it's just me. But I hope that you're having fun. I'm gonna ask you now to go through the children lines. Let me go to the beginning so we can. So as you do your exercise, you wanna look at, do you have any uneven lines, islands, breaks, squares, chain line, any triangles or squares? Look for the square. Maybe you have some talent in teaching and coaching, so look for that. The phalanges of the thumb, do you have any of those rings? How many do you have? And the children lines. And this is something that you can start doing in addition of looking at your major lines also. Now, palmar ridges are fingerprint patterns as they appear on the palm. These are known as palmar ridges. As a general rule, your body is in good balance when the skin ridges on your palm are clear and the skin is springy when pressed with a finger. Examination of the palmar ridges can reveal a variety of imbalances and health conditions. Now, if you have done massage before or massage therapy before, you probably have heard about reflexology. And reflexology it can be done on the feet as well as the hands. Now, it is through Chinese medicine. They do have for different parts on the hand and the feet, there's different organs. So sometimes you can tell, you know, different health or illnesses depending on the color, the consistency, and how we were talking about the flexibility of the hand or the consistency of the mounds. You can actually tell some of these imbalances and health conditions. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. On the next video, we're going to be talking about the color of the hands and more of the attributes that made palmistry one of those sciences and really an art on how to read hands. I'll see you next.